Gundam.tk presents High Grade Baqto. Hey again everybody, it's Robert184 from Gundam.tk, which is GundamReviews.net, and as you can see the High Grade Baqto in its flight mode here, it's time to take a look at all the good and bad things that I could pick out for this kit after putting it together so that you can make a call as to whether or not you want to pick this guy up. So let's go straight to the negatives. So the first big issue that I had with this guy is just the fact that his head is going to fall off on the drop of a hat, and that's part of the design and part of just getting it into the right place. But the way it is on that moving neck, which is used in the flight mode, and just the way everything is put together, it just means that you're not going to have a steady connection, and pretty much anything that you try to do, you may have seen in the parts video that it's just going to fall off, and that's a bit of an issue. Down here with these legs and the thruster parts, it's great that they open up, yes, but they're just on a single opening piece or a swinging piece on either side, and when you have that, the odds of getting them symmetrical are slim to none, because the slightest pressure on them like that is just going to move them completely, and you're not going to get them to be very consistent. They also don't show off those thruster vanes quite as much as I would have liked. In terms of posability, I don't think you'll expect this guy to be like the Titus or Sparrow, and it's surprising that this Titus, as a big bulky guy like this guy, can move in a million different ways that this guy can't, and that's thanks in no small part to the fact that he's just got a polycap ball joint there on the legs, so you're not going to get much out of there. The arms are going to move, but what you can do with those beam of Vulcans in the hands is somewhat limited, so don't expect him to do very much except swing that tail over his shoulder or down to the side, but it's not necessarily going to work all that well just because you're not able to angle it off to the side and bring it over the shoulder straight. And when you do, you have to put the hand at an awkward angle to keep it into place. Now on the side of the box they have a pose that seems to be very good with the tail going down, however that can be a little bit inappropriate. The hip side blaster also works again, but none of them really look all that powerful except for the one over the shoulder, which just looks okay. Now the tail, in terms of the transformation here, it's not always going to go where it should be. In the manual it says that it can bend more than this, so either I put it together wrong or it's just not going to line up properly, which means you can get around that by rotating it around and putting the curve of that first attachment part the other way. But there are just a few things that don't seem to line up just right according to the manual. Now another issue I've got is not necessarily with the model, it's just with the show design itself. With the Gafran you have a blue enemy, and yes, he's a regular grunt who does his thing, and the Baqto is supposed to be the stronger, tougher version that's going to require a strong guy to come and take him out. However, when I see green and blue, I just can't help but wonder why this guy wasn't out first, or they could have just swapped the color schemes of the two of them. And this guy screams Zaku too, and the Gafran could have been the blue goof that comes out a little bit later. Because I'm a guy who collects all the first Gundams, but I know there's tons of people, especially in Japan, who love to collect the early grunt suits. So I'm talking about the Leos from Wing and everything in between. And I think that to have this guy on your shelf in green, or just a green Gafran, which is something you can paint of course, just would have worked a lot better. Should you hold that against the model though? Not at all, so let's move on to the positives. And there are a whole bunch of those. First of all, when you go into the shop and you see this box art, it's got some great poses with the beam Vulcans firing away, explosions going all over the place, and yes, his beam rifle tail. And that for me was enough to make me want to pick this up, especially with the price. 1,500 yen, it's a little bit more than the Gafran at 12, but it's the same as the Zetus, and I think you're getting more out of this one, it just seems to me, because you're paying 15 for 4 big plates. Now the first best part about this is that ultimately when you put him down on the ground, he's going to stand up, and you wouldn't think that a Gundam not falling over would be enough to make it a good one, but when you see something like the Gafran with his skinny legs and the fact that you need this to prop him up unless you pose him just perfectly, is a nice bonus. You shouldn't get frustrated with a Gundam falling over, and this one is not going to, because he's got solid, well-designed legs, and that's going to take care of all the extra stuff, despite the fact that he's got a giant tail stuck on him, which could really throw things off. In terms of looks, how about the proportions? He's big, he's bulky, he's strong-looking, a perfect opponent for the Titus, and that's thanks in no small part to the legs. I think everything about the way this MS was designed is great, including the colors. The multiple colors of green looks great. The clear orange and yellow in the chest as it comes spinning around here. The clear orange by itself, it's still nice that you have it. The seals by themselves, it's sure that would be nice. But having the two of them, you're getting 2 colors in there, and this guy's actually got 5 colors if you want to count the gray, 2 greens, and the orange-yellow combo, and I think that's fantastic. Also, if you add in this whole reptilian features to him, the tail and the way that attaches on actually looks really cool. The neck with all of its ribbed edges and everything. Looks really sharp, and it's unique, and it really adds to the mystery of the UE. Combined with the fact that this guy has Adidas stripes in places you wouldn't expect, like inside the leg thrusters. On the bottom of the feet, they went to a lot of effort, including on the waist section, to make this guy look unique and special, and you can even see two of them poking through there on the chest. Everything about this guy looks great. No weight issues with the tail at all, and that's again thanks to the great ankles. And these skirts, which I've complained about at length on both the Zetas and the Gafran, are going to work on this guy. I don't know why. They're simple, but because they're just smaller in the front, they're not going to look awkward. They're not going to get too much in the way. The things that worked for the Gafran work again here. I'm talking about the hands, having 4 of them with the beam Vulcans in there. The tail works. You can move it in all sorts of places. It's got those great details like those black parts again with those little rib details. The green eyes in between those 2 black parts there for the mysterious UE and its little derpa sound kind of thing. And combine that with the opening legs. I'm a big fan of that. They're going to open up. It's just going to add to his overall bulk and mystery. You've got all sorts of little thruster veins down there, which are just going to look sharp. You don't see them as much as you'd like to, but tons of bonuses, which when you combine it with his flight mode being way better than I expected, the Zetas turns into a duck. The Gafran I thought was alright, but this guy just looks like he's launching forward, and the bend of the neck is going to let him do that. Opening up the head made the Gafran look better. It makes this guy look better, even though I think he looks very sharp in MS mode, just having that black stripe go all the way back. So with the flight mode, the attention to details in the colors, this guy is a winner for me. Final verdict, I'm going to say yes to this guy for the simple fact that he captures the power of the anime. When he showed up, he was big, bulky, and mysterious, and when you put him together, he's big, bulky, and he's going to do what you want him to do. Yes, he's got some posability issues, and there's not all that many play options, but in the end, the transformation flight mode is going to be alright, and it looks exactly like it should. And for me, I gotta give it the call that it's better than the other UE suits. If I was just to choose one of them, the Baqto would be my choice, which is somewhat disappointing that he doesn't seem to be coming out in any other lines. So how about the future for this guy? We don't seem to have an advanced grade on the horizon, and with the Generation 1 rapidly coming to an end, you can imagine that the UE is going to be getting the same kind of upgrades that these good guys are going to need in the form of the Age 2. And I can't wait to see the progression. We've already seen a progression within a generation. With a time skip, they're just going to be that much better. Are we going to have a speed type and a regular type and a power type? I'd imagine that theme will carry through, and I look forward to seeing the Baqto's successor with great anticipation. What about master grades? We're going to be getting a master grade Gafran, and this goes back to something that I was saying at the beginning. I almost think that these two could have been swapped, or at least in colors. If this guy was coming out in master grade, believe it or not, I'd actually want to pick that up. The Gafran, not so much. If there was a green grunt suit that kicked off the series though, that would be too hard for me to resist. But in the end, that's just me, so why don't you let me know what you think of both about the conclusions and all these random comments I'm making, with a comment of your own down below so that other people can see a variety of opinions. Anyway, everybody, Robert184, Gundam.tk, thanks for watching. See you next time, everybody. Bye. Well, I've got to at least give my neighbor credit for being good at this.